All right. Welcome everyone to the Traction Rec webinar. Let's say hello quickly. Myself, Andrew. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at Traction Rec, and I've had the privilege for the last 5 years of working with amazing customers like Kim across our YMCA, JCC, and nonprofit customer community, and many of the people I see joining the webinar today. So great to see so many familiar faces. So today's conversation is part of what we're calling our sit-down series. So while Traction Rec is a technology company, this is actually intended to be less of a technology conversation, more of a discussion about business, operations, strategy, with today's focus on membership. And no surprise, probably for most people on the phone, membership is a very important topic. I know for most of you, it probably represents about 40% of your revenue or more. And so we're very lucky to be joined today by Kim Armitage, who is the SVP of Strategic Growth and Mission at the YMCA of Metropolitan Denver. And so Kim and I had the pleasure of attending a conference together in California 2 months ago. The Fitness Industry Supplier Association for YMCA conference. So the FISA event hosted by Sal Pellegrino, the executive director over there. They did a really phenomenal job of having some roundtable discussions, many of them focusing on membership. And it was in that moment that I had a chance to share, learn a little bit more about what Kim and the team in Denver are doing. And it was pretty phenomenal to see what the last kind of 12 plus months have looked like for them in terms of the change they've gone through. And where they are today. So I asked Kim if she would very nicely come join the rest of us and share some of that insight and some of that thought leadership. So really lucky to have you here. Kim, before we kick off, do you want to do a little bit more of an introduction, your backstory? Tell us a bit about journey through the Y movement and a little bit more about your role today.
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. Glad to be here. And yes, Stephanie, thanks for that shout out on ABBA. Some of you guys know me that, yes, that is one of my faves. So I've been with the YMCA of Metropolitan Denver for the last 30 years, and I have held many positions, worked at a variety of different centers throughout my career. I kind of jumped in and out of aquatics for a while. I've pretty much done it all, as I'm sure some of you on this call that have been around as long as I have done the same. And about 3 years ago, got moved into different positions where I was just overseeing program, and about 2 years ago, started overseeing membership and all of the things in Y terms. People probably would look at me as more of a COO. We have fun and exciting titles here in Denver. And so that's why my title is the Senior VP of Strategic Growth and Mission. And, you know, my team, Vanessa's on this call, and she'll be brought in a little bit later in case there's some questions or things that I say inaccurately in regards to the leads and sales process, because she's really been instrumental with me and kind of the only one in Denver that's been along this journey since the very beginning as how we brought this on. So she has a lot to do with how we came up with what we came up with, along with some other outside agencies that helped us with all the surveying and things that we did. So I just wanted to make sure I shouted her out.
Awesome. Thanks, Kim. So not only does Denver have fun titles and stuff like that, you guys have some pretty fun things you do. So one of the things I also learned about Kim as a people leader, she likes to keep it light with her team. And so she was telling me that every Friday when they're doing their team meeting, they do a rotating who gets to play their walkout song. So yes, why did we open with ABBA Dancing Queen? Because we learned that that's Kim's walkout song. So lots of fun there. Before I ask Kim to share a little bit more about what's going on in Denver, we thought we'd run a couple quick polls just to get a bit of sense of, for those joining us on the call today, what's going on for them. So Alicia from our team has got 2 polls that we'll just quickly run and get a bit of sense of what's going on in terms of, first, like just membership today. So, you know, chatting with Ys, Js, everyone across the country, it's a bit of a sliding scale. So we'll ask you quickly, like, how's it going for you? Better than ever? About the norm? Or do you still feel like you're trying to claw back a little bit from the last few years? And we'll give everyone a few minutes to fill that out. And then we have another question about where your focus is right now, and that'll help guide a little bit of our conversation. So, okay, so interesting. Nearly 50% are still going to be in that still recovering category. Okay, very helpful. And so then one other question, very curious to learn from people. If you had to identify a #1 focus when you think about membership, or kind of that top priority where you really want to spend your time in your mind share, where is it? So, the ones we generally hear: acquisition, retention, that connection or that onboarding experience, or maybe it's something else. Oh, all of the above. Okay, you guys, everyone cheated on the phone. You're supposed to choose your top one, and everyone chose 3 as their top priority. So we can say it's probably pretty evenly split. No surprise there.
You have too many priorities, nothing's a priority. Just want to
Yeah.
remind everyone that.
Yeah, exactly. If everything's a priority, then okay, Kim. So why don't we start with take us back a little bit. You guys went through a major membership restructure. Please take us a little bit through how that began and a bit of that journey.
Well, one of the things that began us was we got a new CEO about I guess it's been about 5 years now, but prior to COVID, we were kind of looking at what we were going to do. And as we know, sometimes sales was this bad word in the YMCA, and we brought on a sales director in the spring of 2019 and hired sales managers within our centers, and started looking at how we were going to structure. We had something like, I don't know, a ridiculous amount of membership types. I want to say 35 or 40. It was kind of crazy. We had prices all over the board. Every center was different. And so we started looking at doing some surveys to the community, and we were starting to see some changes actually prior to COVID. And I think in Denver, COVID was in some respects a blessing. Because right after COVID hit, we started doing some extensive surveying of our members, of our program participants, as well as individuals within 1, 3, 5 mile radiuses of all of our facilities. We started looking at how are they spending their disposable income, what are they doing, what kind of memberships do they want, and we actually spent about 18 months thereabouts doing all of this surveying. So we really created our membership model based on data. We didn't just guess that this is what our members wanted. And a matter of fact, what we originally set out that what we thought we wanted to do, we were wrong. So the data proved to be beneficial for us. And what we ended up with was basically we have 5 membership types. And we no longer sell youth memberships. We no longer sell senior memberships. We basically have 5 membership types that range from our Y Starter membership. We do a Y Premium membership, and then we have a Y Your Way membership. And within our categories of Y Starter, there's 1 membership type, and it's an individual. That is a low cost membership type. They do not have access to fitness classes or our e-gym. We actually have e-gym in 5 of our 7 locations, and our silver sneakers also do not have access to e-gym. They have to pay an a la carte to have access to that. We then have, and one of the things that's beneficial on why Y Starter worked, because that's actually probably where I would say we're seeing the greatest success, is because there were a lot of people who didn't want fitness classes and so forth, and so they felt like they were paying this dollar amount and didn't really use all of the benefit of the membership.
Yeah.
And as you look at the criteria and you talk about Y Starter, Y Premium, and a Y Your Way, there's 3 tiers. Whenever you guys go buy something, and I'm going to use like SurveyMonkey as an example, you kind of have 3 tiers. You really want everybody in the middle, right? Because that's your price point of where you'd like to see everybody. And so the Y Starter membership, the reason it works for us also is because we do use Traction Rack. I'm going to give you your plug here, Andrew. And is that if you have a Y Starter membership, we require everybody to register for classes in order to attend those classes. And, they can sign up prior to the class. And when they come into the class, they sign up, and we track that. If they do not have access to the class, they are not allowed to participate in that class. We ask them if they'd like to upgrade, and we do all of those things if that is the case. So that's how we track to make sure that our Y starters are not using membership, because our systems kind of talk to one another from Traction Rack to the system that we're going to use. And so the benefit of the Y starter and how we can control that works very beneficial to us. Now, I know some of you are thinking, does the pool include it in Y starter? And actually it is. If you look at pool usage, there's actually members join because they think they're going to use the pool, but we actually have less than 20% of our members that actually use our pool for lap swimming and so forth. So we did include the pool in that, and it was going to be harder to control. Our Y Premium membership then includes all of our fitness classes and so forth. And then our Y Starter, which is one of the things that we looked at, is a membership where they choose what they want. So they can pick some fee-based programs that they can get within the Y Starter membership, up to 6 credits. And I don't know, I don't want to get into too many details on that, and I can talk to anyone after, or any of my team members can explain that to you. But basically, they say what a set price. They can choose massage, they can choose Studio Y, they can choose youth sports and so forth, and they get 6 credits a month that program becomes free for them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a snapshot of how we develop the 3 different tiers.
Yeah. Hey, Kim, maybe I'll ask you to go back a little bit, because you talked about sort of the surveying you did in your community, getting data and sort of learning some things you didn't expect from it. And that feels like, when any organization is looking at their membership and how they align, what are the benefits to which tier? That's a huge part of the exercise. Do you mind talking a little bit more about that process for people?
Yep. So we used Greater Analytics, which is a company out of Baltimore, Maryland. And first thing we did was we started our member satisfaction surveys, which is an extensive survey, which we do quarterly. And then we created a survey tool of what types of services do individuals want. So that's kind of where we started. So we got all this information of this is what they wanted. They wanted more things than fitness. So they wanted to see art, they wanted to see taekwondo, nutrition. Nutrition came up extremely high on those survey results. So after we got those survey results back, we then designed another survey to ask them do you want an all-inclusive membership? Do you want to be able to pick and grab? And created a survey to ask, how do they want the membership models to form? Do you want just a basic model membership? And created the survey to kind of gather how we should build the survey. And what we thought was going to happen, everyone was going to say, we want an all-inclusive, everything's included, and here's the price point. We tested price points with them to say, what would you pay for this? What would you pay for that? To kind of come up with what our price range was going to be as well.
Oh, very cool. And so you talked a little bit too, I'm curious, just said like, hey, we realized at the time we had like 30 to 40 different membership types. So this is super common. We hear this all the time, especially when we're going through like system migration. It's a time when people look at that stuff a lot. How did you work through going from that to the new? And I know you gave some extra consideration of trying to respect the legacy, but you're trying to move everyone to the new model. Like, that's a pretty tough thing to do. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, so we were kind of lucky because we opened a new facility right in the middle of COVID. And so we had the opportunity to test it at that location of how they were looking. Now we did still have kind of a senior membership and a single parent family membership at that facility. But when you look at the membership types that we created, it didn't really affect members. Our marketing team, Claudia and her team, is just absolutely amazing on how we communicate it to members. And we kind of did a step approach to letting them know that, okay, you could downgrade, you could upgrade, because the youth membership was one that really kind of was that upgrade. It went from, somebody who was paying $20 a month. That was the age of 13 to 17 to they now pay $36 a month. And we have quite a few individuals in that 13 to 17 age group now. And so we just did a lot of communication to our members, did it in stages, and it was really interesting because we had anticipated that we were going to have like 30 to 35% that downgraded. I don't remember the number that did, and it was a lot lower than what we anticipated was going to downgrade. And Vanessa may be able to look that up and put it in the chat if she remembers, because that was a long time ago that we had made that transition. So we did a lot of communication. We grandfathered some individuals in because we also had all of these other special exceptions. And it took us till about February of this year to get rid of all of those grandfathers and so forth, to have everybody in the membership types that we have, the Y Starter, which is an individual, and Y Premium, and then Y Your Way.
Okay, so pretty big change. And so I'm just thinking of change is hard for organizations. So you're rolling this out. So tell us a little bit about the rollout, and then also with it, you seem to roll out a bit of a new sales model and some approaches there.
Yeah, well, and the sales team was always working hard. We've had a sales team since 2019. This January, we did beef that up, that we pretty much now have a sales manager in every center. We still have one center that is, we still have two centers that share a sales staff person. But our approach is that the sales team is focused on sales and leads. They don't, I'm not going to say they don't work the front desk, because they do, because we need them to understand and work those things in. But in early 2020, Vanessa started what we called our tour ambassadors that actually worked with our sales team. And if you are not trained to be a tour ambassador to give tours to members, then you are not eligible, quote unquote, to give tours. Now, I'm not going to say that that does not happen, that people who haven't been through the training don't give tours, because, on a Sunday afternoon, somebody didn't show up and something happens, right? Yeah. But we go through, they all go through a training. And one of the things that I think our team does really well is that we really try to focus on the benefits of what our membership is about, as opposed to the amenities. Every place has a treadmill. Every place has a platform. So how do we really show our individuals that joining the Y is more than just a place to work out, and how we create that to be their third place? And that has really been our focus for the last 12 to 14 months, training every employee that we have on our third place motto. We incorporated a program called Culture Wise, which has 27 standards of how we operate, from things to making sure that we're having fun, and how are we standing up when we come forward. And so and the sales team, as I said, really focuses on sales. They call, they make leads, they focus on that conversion, and the leads tracking and system that we use is amazing. And Vanessa and her team do a fantastic job on transferring those leads. We focus on getting a member into an appointment. And then from there, Deb and her team, the center leads, Veronica, and those individuals really work hard on every member. Receives a phone call in the first 7 days. If a member does not have an appointment scheduled, we attempt to schedule that appointment. And the thing that's really nice is that when a lead is entered into Traction Rec, Vanessa's team writes all of these things, right? And then Deb's team can all of a sudden see, oh, they really wanted this, or they wanted nutrition. Am I making sure they're getting into that nutrition appointment, and so forth? And then the front desk team, the center lead teams, and everybody else's worlds, those are executive directors. We call them center leads. They then record what's happening. And then, believe it or not, in 21 days, then Amanda, my community well-being team, then takes over from there to make sure that they are, that we are following that member to keep them engaged in what we're doing. We've seen a retention in our 3 months. So we track retention based on join groups. So we look at retention for our January group. So everybody who joined in January, who's still with us, February and so forth, track overall retention as well. But we really focus on the class of membership. And we track our 1 month retention is, so if I join today and I'm still with me on September 1, that's how we're tracking retention. Same thing with 3 months. So it's kind of a 4 month, but it's really a 3 month because we want to make sure they're with us for 3 months. For our 1 month retention, right now our average is sitting at about 94%. And our 6 month retention right now is 73%. And so we have seen a huge increase in our retention just because of the process, and it's really seamless on how the team really works together. Now, we have definitely improvements to make, and I'm sure Vanessa and Veronica, who are on this call, Vanessa again, the sales, Veronica, the one of the center leads, there's things that we still need to work on. One of our focuses is really making sure we're converting them into a program or service, because when we look at individuals that are in a program or a class, we have a higher retention rate of those individuals than those that are not. And we also take a look and track that. So if they were in a program or did an appointment, what's our retention rate with them versus the ones that did not? And you definitely see a difference in that.
Oh, so. Those are great metrics that you're tracking.
Yeah, and Vanessa, thanks for answering some of those things that are coming through in the chat.
Yeah, you did a great job there. Hey, I wanted to ask you too, Kim, just because you talked a lot about the centers and how they operate, which is pretty impressive. Like, but you're also describing a way where this, sounds pretty consistent across all centers, all branches. I feel like I see or have this conversation a lot centralized versus localized, and how do you do that? Maybe explain to us how that's working in your model.
Well, so this is interesting. So the other thing I did not mention was our prices for all of our centers is the same. So not only do we have only 5 membership types, a Y Starter membership is $36 no matter what facility you join. When we changed to the one price, we had some centers that there was a $10 difference of an increase of what we were going to do to different centers. And believe it or not, we did not see any attrition, maybe 2 or 3 members, which was one of the biggest concerns of ours. But so not only do we have 5 membership types, we have the same price for each tier. Because we do believe in, number one, we do promote scholarships. We do have about 30 or so members that are on scholarship. But we do believe that we have to be consistent, and you have to have a price point that just because you live in this neighborhood, you have some of the same services and so forth. We shouldn't make it cheaper, because that just devalues the Y. And we are always really good about saying, oh, it's the Y, so let's just make it cheaper, right? And so we have really created that value proposition of, here's what it costs, and if you need help, let us help you. And that's how we are trying to focus.
Yeah, that's quite impressive, because the other thing you see, just like, especially for like large Ys like yourself, where you cover like a large, region within the city or whatever, like there are a lot of differences between neighborhoods and stuff. And we hear this a lot, and like, this is why we need special membership price here, special membership type here, by location. It sounds like you're sort of pushing through all that.
Yep, for sure.
Very cool. So tell us a little bit more about the data and how you're tracking all this.
Yep. So I don't know if you want to just quickly bring up just the lead slide,
Yeah, sure.
that team, how we focus on that and so forth.
Yeah, we got a couple we could show, Kim. So maybe just because we're on the topic. So you were talking about kind of the center sales and that ownership and stuff. So you had shared this slide with us as well too. So I don't know if you wanted to speak to this at all.
Yep. So if what we take a look at is that we take a look at a couple KPIs, and here are some things that are kind of crucial as it relates to the sales team, and then the appointments and no-shows and so forth. And so you can kind of see we do schedule tour appointments, and we look at what's scheduled versus what showed and how that's working. We then translate those who showed and how they're joined versus different appointments, and we do know that we are converting at a higher rate for individuals that walk into the facility, and so if they come in the facility, we are converting versus the team having phone calls with individuals that have come in. So if we can get them in, we're at a higher conversion rate. And then we also are looking at appointments of who showed and who did not show, and what is that retention between those individuals. And we have gone from about 22% of our new members getting into an appointment and so forth to now about 48%. As of June. And so we're really trying to focus on that because we know we have a higher retention of those individuals that are attending. As I said, I briefly talked about the ownership in regards to the tour ambassadors and how that is scheduled, and Vanessa does trainings with all of those individuals to ensure that they can give a proper tour. We use iPads and so forth to track them so that we can also communicate directly to individuals after a tour, thanking them for coming in, all of those pieces. We do all of this lead tracking through the Traction Rec system. And I do also want to allude to the fact that the sales team also looks at programs. So if somebody goes in to register and they have an abandoned cart, that person actually becomes a lead, and the sales team actually follows up. Why didn't they complete their transaction to join one of our programs that as a non-member? How do they get them to convert? So we do take a look at abandoned cart individuals as well. And so we do look at that as well. And it's not just the sales team that's responsible for sales. The center leads and the tour ambassadors have expectations around those things as well. You can see we track leads through a variety of different sources. So we have website, program participant, direct mail, staff referral, digital ads, Google ad, whether they're non-members, whether they came to an event, and then of course member referral. So yes, so that's how we work through the leads. Our marketing team does an incredible job marketing and then providing us this information. This data strictly comes directly out of Traction Rec for us to monitor what's happening with leads. And she spends time to dedupe to make sure that, you know, you might have somebody that came in the facility, but then also maybe looked at a digital ad. So we specifically take a look at making sure we're not counting a lead twice.
Yeah, you'd shared some of the other reporting Vanessa does, where she's bringing together basically all those different sources, and you say a ton of the digital ads, in-person ads, things like that.
Yeah. And the thing that's really nice about how we're doing this is that when a lead is converted, tasks are assigned to designated staff individuals. So we can track pretty much everything, because when a lead goes in, once a sale happens, a task then gets assigned out to a specific individual depending on how we do things. We have just started a brand new position that will be also focusing on some other training and making sure our tasks are being completed, and some other components that we're continuing to enhance on how we're tracking how we are tracking our new members as we move forward. One of the things that is helping us is retention is going up, which is helping us quite a bit. So our platform that we are strictly using is Traction Rec. All of the things that we are doing are through Traction Rec. We do use, we do have two sub, I don't even know how to explain this, but we use Alaris for our camp and childcare for sign in and out and communication, but that goes back to Traction Rec. And that's just because of just ease and licensing requirements. But Alaris and Traction Rec they work together, and Andrew can probably talk a little bit better on how those two work together. I just know it works. And the same thing, we currently use MindBody, but we will be moving away from MindBody and into Alaris, as we move forward.
Very cool. Hey, Kim, you talked a little bit about some of the team and stuff. Do you want to describe more broadly, like both like kind of thinking team involved and also just when you're moving through these big changes, you know, it takes the whole organization being on board. So just what does that kind of environment look like internally?
We have, I mean, I guess you could say we kind of have three teams. We kind of have the sales team, the initial member 14-day team, and then the wellness community team that takes the community well-being team that takes over at the 14 to 21 day period of time. And my two VPs that oversee the operations of the center and community well-being kind of talk together. And then of course, and the center leads lead kind of a head meeting at each center of kind of what's happening on a monthly basis to ensure that they're all in line. Now it's not perfect, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Hey, as you've been going through this, and it seems like, you know, the Y and Denver really kind of continually focuses and reinvests in this process a lot. Any big learnings or big missteps that you're comfortable sharing, where you're like, oh, wouldn't have done that again, or might approach it differently?
Well, there are definitely some things we would have done differently in Traction Rec. There are some things that are, we tried to take what we had in Daxco and put it into Traction Rec, right? And that's not what we should have done. So we've had to do a lot of fixes of how we are doing things because we didn't understand the full capabilities of what could really happen. And so the mistakes we made on how we set certain things up, I would love to do that all over again, especially in the program area. You know, making it easier for members to register and connect and so forth. And so that has been a huge struggle. And I think there are some other areas of, I don't think we brought the center leads in soon enough on the membership model conversion or that conversation. We kind of brought them in a little bit too late, and I think we should have brought them in a little bit sooner on some of those things, as well as some of the retention pieces that we were doing. We could have brought them in a little bit sooner.
Yeah, it's part of the change management side. Hey, I'm thinking kind of on that idea, and just like, so for those sitting on the call, like they could be in a variety of positions that might have some very mature kind of sales models like yourself, might be more early days. If someone is more kind of early on and they're trying to figure a little bit of like, where would they start if they want to either have simplified membership structure or have a bit more of a sales culture around how they do it, where would you recommend, like what should they do to kind of get started, Kim?
Well, I think the thing that is most important is gathering the data. Because this works in Denver, doesn't mean it will work someplace else. And gathering the data and taking the time. I mean, if you think about this, we took almost 18 months before we pulled the trigger on the start of our membership model. The first official start of our new membership model was April 1st of 2022. No, well, not including the new center, but April 1st of 2022. So we are just at 15 months of our membership model. And as I said, in February when we were completely 100%, everybody is on one of the new membership types. So take your time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think that that's, we try to, in the Y, to be like, okay, let's just turn it. I think my team would argue that we went probably too fast on some things, but overall, you just need to take your time and do it right. Making sure that you've crossed all your I's and you've communicated to the members. Because also in this process, we took things away from our third-party billers, so Silver Sneakers and Silver and Fit and so forth. They just really have access to our facilities. They have to pay for eGym. I know some of you asked what that was, and I think Vanessa put a link in the chat for you to take a look at, but it's a selectorized fitness equipment that manages individuals' strength, flexibility, and really lets them set their workout. A lot of people get nervous that it takes away from personal training, but it really has enhanced our personal training, if anything. We have really gone to that kind of a la carte component, which I think has been really beneficial to us.
Yeah, very cool. Hey, we definitely want to leave some time at the end for questions. And I think Stephanie Anderson might help us out a little bit with that. And sounds like we'll probably need Vanessa too.
Yeah, Vanessa's been doing a great job answering some of those questions. So thanks, Vanessa, again.
While we're waiting for that to get queued up, I'll do a little plug, Kim, for some of the events we got coming up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, next week, many people are probably headed down to Atlanta for a General Assembly. So the Traction Rec team and many others will be down there. And we're doing a big sort of kickoff social on the Wednesday evening. So if you are coming into town a little bit early before things get going, please come join us on Wednesday. Lots of info and invites available for that on the website. And then a little further out, but the other big event that we got our eyes on is next spring. We're all going to Denver for the 43rd annual NATO conference. So Kim, you and the team are the host Y and host city this year.
That's right. We're excited.
Yeah, I hear you got some you got some fun plans for the parties there too.
We do. Join our tailgate party. It'll be awesome. So I did see something pop up. We have not implemented Marketing Cloud. That is in our plan for fourth quarter, which will actually help make things go a little bit faster in some areas for us once we implement Marketing Cloud, but we have not implemented Marketing Cloud yet. One of the things we also learned through this process that I actually didn't mention is that there is still the need of communication and one-on-one conversations with our members. We had started with, we went full automation on some things and we weren't seeing the results. So we actually pulled back on some of our automation and created some other connections. Like, for example, the phone call or the text and so forth, instead of just the emails for the center leads, and they started getting much better feedback. So, automation is great because it helps track and hold your staff accountable, but we still can't leave the idea of that human interaction on what we're about and creating that third place. So. A family cannot buy a Y Starter. Y Starter is strictly an individual membership. So it is Y Starter, it's an individual and it's 13 and up. And then I don't know if you want to just bring up that screen, Andrew.
Yeah.
So if you take a look, so our basic, which is our Y Starter, which is $36 a month, our standard, which is called our Y Premium. And we have an individual, couple, and a household. And then we have create your own, and it is basically $136 a month. And we put on there that it's a household, but specifically an individual can join and have 6 credits, or a family, and it's $136 a month. So it's $136 a month and you are allowed 6 credits. And
this is where you're really talking about, I'm going to call it the Berenstein Bears model, Kim, where it's not too big, not too small, just right. And you're kind of driving most people to this middle standard, but you have those kind of complementary options on either side that let people come in the door, or for the more premium.
Yep. And I know a couple of you have asked me for my 13-month retention. And I can get that for you, but I can tell you, the last time I ran it, we were around about 70%. But I have members here in Denver that have been members for so long that our 13-month retention, I don't focus on that. I focus on those who are joining on a month-to-month basis, because those are the ones I want to convert to the ones that have been members here for so long, and I could blow up a building, have a flood in a downtown Y, and they never leave. Our focus is really on those classes of getting them to extend, and we track them just continually. We also track, so let's say we run a promo in October for join for $1. We are also tracking to see what our benefit is to running those, to see what is our conversion rate and what is the retention of that month. And if we're having lower retention and we're having higher retention in a month that we're not running a promo, is that something we need to focus on, or how are we driving to make sure those ones who are joining for $1 with higher volume are getting more connected? So our philosophy in Denver is really to focus on the class as opposed to that 13-month retention, which is great. It's just important, but you can't just look at 13-month retention, because I have members that have been here for so long that doesn't fluctuate a whole lot. We do not at this time for our sales staff. They are an exempt employee. We do not do incentives for our sales team at this time. So they have a base pay, and they are at a base. They can start anywhere from $50,000 as an exempt employee. We do some other types of incentives. We use a system called Motivosity to incentivize all of our staff, not just our sales team. We have looked at a variety of different options for sales incentives. As a matter of fact, we did a incentive where the sales team was going to get this in huge increase and some dollars, and we just haven't seen a return on that just yet. So we do not have incentive-based sales at this time. So all of our sales team are exempt. And in our centers, I would say, yes, the majority of our frontline, so I have full-time coordinators at our front desks, along with the center leads. But we do have quite a few, part-time staff that are working 20 or so hours a week. So as I said, our membership types are what Andrew put up on the screen, a Y individual. So if you're, doesn't matter who you are. Now we do have, so we have a collaboration with the Community College of Denver, where they pay for memberships for their students. So it is free to them and they pay us. And they have up to, I don't know, 400 Vanessa units that they pay for their students. But we have, we do a military discount and a couple discounts for some categories of individuals, but it is off the membership type they purchase. We do not have a separate setup of membership types.
Big thanks to Kim, Vanessa, and the whole Y Denver team. Love hearing about your stories and your success, and appreciate so much you sharing all the amazing things you're doing in your communities. And I'm going to see you next week.
Yep, and I will be at General Assembly, and I know Vanessa put her email also in the chat, but feel free to reach out anytime. We are always happy to share what we're doing.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your Thursday and your week. And for those that'll be in Atlanta, we'll see you soon.